and welcome to another episode of the Growth Focus podcast, where we bring together tech leaders from across the globe to share their insights to help us grow our businesses in tech and grow our careers. My name is Gary Lafferty, the founder of the Growth Focus Partnerships, and I'm very pleased this episode to have Tanguy from Sonar Clarity all the way from France to share his insights into entrepreneurship, to startups, growing partnerships, and building trust within our industry. So without further ado, Tanguy, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here today. Why don't we start off with letting you introduce yourself and give us an idea of how you got started into tech and how and where you are today.
100%. Thanks a lot for inviting me. Very happy to be here. As you can hear, everyone, I'm French, and you said it, and I'm calling out from France, obviously. So sorry about all the mistakes I will probably do, but I'll do my best, I promise. So to answer the question, I've been in tech for a bit more than 10 years now, starting in apprenticeship back in the days for several companies, but the last one was for Dell during 2 years, where I learned more about marketing and community management and social networks. I've been doing this a little bit. Then I was basically my dream was to work for Google. So I thought, okay, I need to improve my English. My English was really, really bad at the time. So I went 1 year in Australia, working in Sydney in digital marketing and doing 4 hours English every day just to improve. And then I traveled a little bit around. Then I came back to Dublin in Europe, working for Google for about 4 years. Started as a direct consultant, so working with customers in order to help them on their marketing strategy and their overall digital transformation strategy. Then I switched to the partnership side very, very fast, probably 6-9 months after starting. And I've been doing this for about 4 years in total. Then I was basically hired by Asana as the first channel partner globally. The idea basically behind it was to create the program and on my side to scale it in Europe. So when I started, I was the only one working on the whole European market, plus managing LATAM as well. And obviously after a few months, a few years, we've been hiring a lot of different person. I think at the end we were probably a bit more than 50 globally. It was really, really great. I've learned a lot. It was really an amazing experience. And then layoff happened. I decided just before layoff that I wanted to launch my own company. So not the great timing. I've stayed for a bit more in order to help them restructure because we lost a bit more than 50% of the team globally. So after restructuring the program, basically, I left and launched my first company, which was a consulting firm. I'll talk about that probably a bit more later. And then from that consulting firm, basically the idea of Sonar Clarity came up and we started Sonar Clarity.
Fantastic. So quite a varied experience. And I love the fact that, as you said, we know the downfalls of it. You went over to Australia to improve your English. You got your traveling in as well, which is always fantastic to be able to do. But then to land a job with Google as well from there and starting your career, that must have been quite an experience from working in Dublin, working for Google. What would you say was the top 3 things you managed to get out of that time you had with Google?
It was definitely probably the best school I could ever dream of, to be honest. What I've learned, I think it's more on the, if I can say it like that, on the way to be. I've learned how to be a good person in Google. Not that I was a bad person before, but you really see there's a lot of smart people around you and you learn how to behave just to make everyone comfortable. Being sure not to hurt anyone with humor that would not be appropriate, those kind of things. It's really, really powerful, especially if you want to build partnerships in the future. It's important to be the right person in the room, and that's definitely the first thing. Then probably how to find the answer you're looking for. Basically, when you start working at Google, there's a lot of projects, a lot of things to learn. A lot of smart people around you, so you tend to just start asking questions around. People are really nice, they're helping you. But at one point, they're going to just tell you, okay, this is the way you can find the answer. Now it's your turn to find the answer by yourself. So you just learn to find the right, proper answer, where to dig, how to interpret informations, how to work on those, how to be a problem solver, basically. And the third one, probably quality in terms of marketing. I think I've been very, very lucky when I started. So I was on the ads side. When I started, it was still kind of the old Google AdWords, and it was really, really manual. When I started, it was like the moment where people were switching to automation, like putting rules in place to have like automated biddings and everything. So it was really interesting to see the move from manual to automation. And probably 2 years later, it was the start of machine learning and AI already in Google Ads. So I saw the switch then from automation to AI. And my role was to actually go to partners, explain how machine learning AI will change their job in the future and will change the way they're going to be doing things. So we were kind of in advanced, and I've been really, really lucky to witness those changes, basically. I don't know if that answers the question, but yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, I think that there people often wonder and they forget the great stuff that they learn through their apprenticeships, through their internships, through their first jobs that give actually a really good foundation to being an entrepreneur. And the fact that, if you can keep those at the front of mind all the time, so yes, it did teach me how to be a better person. It did teach me how to build up partnerships, and it did teach me how 100%. To get out there and explain things to people in such a way that they understand it. These are all good foundations for great business growth and great business startup. So that being said, let's talk about, obviously, before we get to Sonar Clarity, let's talk about the consulting thing. That itch in you, that little itch that you had to scratch about becoming and being your own boss and doing that. Where did that come from, and what do you think was the driver in that, apart from the layoffs? But what was the driver in becoming an entrepreneurship as opposed to staying in the corporate world?
So it was actually before the layoffs. I asked to be part of the layoff, and it was not accepted, so I had to stay in Asana. I couldn't leave, actually. Why a consulting firm? First, the idea was definitely bigger than a consulting firm. It was kind of connecting all the freelancers in the world to create the biggest channel partner you can ever dream of for all the softwares on the market. This was kind of the vision behind it. When we started it was working really well, but the first problem was I kind of discovered that I don't really like services. And it's a real job, right? You need to repeat yourself a lot. You need to create a lot of presentations. It was not the kind of the job I've dreamed of, and I thought, it's great as a first entrepreneurship experience because you're generating money straight away, and that's great, right? Because obviously, when you start, I think, at least on my side, taking a risk, having a really, really good salary, and then you're starting from scratch and you don't have any money coming in, that would have been really, really difficult. So I think starting with the consulting firm was kind of the safe way, the easiest way to start as an entrepreneur. It gave me the kind of the wings, and then when I had the wings, basically I decided to change direction and go the way I am now. But it was really, really good experience, to be honest. A company that is still working a little bit, definitely not what I like to do. Decided to change.
Yeah, so from what we heard there, you had the bigger vision. Consulting was almost like the stepping stone. You saw it as a stepping stone right from the very beginning, as opposed to starting a consulting firm, which then evolved into something. You knew this was just going to be the first step, second step, get into entrepreneurism to then fulfill the goal that you have. So for people who don't know or haven't heard about Sonar Clarity, why don't you give us a little bit of an outline as to what exactly you do, what is it that you, who is it you serve, the problem that's out there in the world that you are trying to rectify?
100%. So Sonar Clarity is a SaaS management platform. The idea is for IT to have visibility over all the softwares being used by all employees. And obviously with these, the security problems, the management, the license management problems, the budget problems. So going back a little bit, back to that consulting firm we were doing, because we were helping customers find the right SaaS on the market based on their problems, basically it was working really well. But all of the customers were like, before buying, they wanted to check if people, like employees, were using tools internally already. So it's like, yeah, I think for the problem you should use Asana, for example. Oh, but I'd love to know if people are already using Notion, Asana, Monday internally, so I can potentially choose based on that. And we didn't have that inventory / cartography tool. So we decided to first kind of switch on that particular tool. And to do this, I've been doing about 400 interviews of CIOs, CISO, procurement, finance, a lot of different people. And that's where I discovered software asset managers. Those guys are kind of in the middle of legal, obviously procurement, finance, the IT team, security team, etc. And they're in the middle and kind of in charge of all the softwares inside. In the back, in the past, software asset managers were only on the big top 3, 4, 5 softwares you have internally, like Microsoft, Salesforce, like SAP, Oracle, those kind of softwares. But now that we're coming in SaaS right now, the budget is actually changing. It's not Pareto law, like 80% of the budget is on the top 20% softwares. It's more equal because there's a lot of small softwares out there in the company and people are using a lot of different softwares. So they need to actually change the scope for the software asset manager and see the long tail as well, and not only the big ones. And discussing with those ones, I was like, yes, it's not only cartography that we need to do. Yes, we need to start by seeing everything, but we need to deep dive. We need to know if there's a problem in terms of security. We need to be able to help employees within the company kind of do the right, take the right decision in terms of technology they're going to be using, like ChatGPT, Copilot, those kind of things. During the interviews as well, I saw that there's a big silo between IT and the business teams. It's actually crazy when I remember the interviews they have, because it was really always the same. I was talking to the CIO and the CEO was like, yeah, the business teams, they think they can do on their own, but it's a big security risk after that. They try to avoid us. And on the other side, when you talk to business, they were like, yeah, they're super slow. On my side, I need to be really, really fast. It's business first, man. So basically, at the end, we saw IT needs control, needs visibility. And on the other side, business needs agility and velocity. Mm-hmm. And there's a clash, right? So it's kind of, we kind of make that problem the mission of our company. The idea is definitely to break that silo between IT and business, make them work easier. And that's basically what we do. Giving control and monitoring to IT on one side, on the other side to give velocity and agility to the business. They will have access to certain tools and notification in order to basically kind of avoid being in touch with IT, because everything would be automated and you would just gain a lot of time. So I'll stop here because I'm talking a lot, but you see the idea.
That's a really interesting thing that there's a couple of things that I want to pick up on that, because I think, although when you say it sounds like, it was super easy to speak to all these people and get these ideas, but we'll break them down in a little bit. So let's talk about the first one. The first one is a fantastic eye-opener, really, and again, a great insight that the IT department and the business side of things and the business department are two different rivals to a degree. We've got the slow and sure IT, let's make sure it works, let's implement it, let's make sure that everything works, whereas the business side of things is, we got to get out there. Time is money. Let's just do this. Let's fail fast. Yes. Let's pick it up again, whereas they're talking different languages. And effectively, the different languages are causing the big problem. Like you say, the silo that they create between them.
And both are right. Like, you need to be fast and go out there, but in the same time, it has to be secure. So, like, both are right, which is the problem. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's fascinating that, that especially in tech, we tend to just generally talk to one or two departments. But when we see two different, or one or two departments that complement each other, because that's what's going to be using whatever tech that is. But when you have two different, completely different attitudes to the way they do business and what they're employed to do effectively and what they're contracted to do, they are, as you say, absolutely right and sticking to what they know. So that's quite a feat to bring them together to reduce that gap. And I love that mission. The second thing I want to really talk about and really ask you, and perhaps you could share some of this, is that you very casually said, "Oh, we talked to hundreds of people and in our research and stuff like that." And I love the fact that you've done that, because obviously now you're getting the message that coming out from the mouths of the people themselves, as opposed to your brain and what you think it is. You've gone out into the marketplace and you've asked those questions. A lot of people that I've come across within this industry are actually too scared to go out and ask. and actually do. They just think, I've got an idea, this is my baby, this is going to solve everything, let me get out to the marketplace. And that's when they find out that it doesn't. It's not a build it and they will come mentality. It's because they've got the wrong message for the wrong people and the wrong product. What insights can you give us that helped you get on and deal and actually get those 300, 400 calls that you did to find that research?
I think first on our side, it was not the picture of the tool was not finished, right? First, so we were not like, it's my baby, I don't want to talk about it. I'll go to the market. I'll do the go-to market myself. And when it's in there, everyone will buy it because it's amazing. Yeah. We really wanted to get the feedback from the different departments and understand, like, is this actually solving a challenge you have? Because we saw that when in the back company, in the consulting firm, when talking to customers, this was our job, to actually deep dive, understand the problem behind the problem, because potentially there's another one. Potentially understand if people are working together. This might be the problem as well. Sometimes there's no need for another tool. It's just that people don't like each other. So this was kind of our job before, and we just applied this to launching Sonar and understand the problems people have. And if they don't have any problem, potentially how can we gain productivity? Because that's kind of the main thing. Even if you don't have any problem, if I tell you you can multiply your day and do twice the work you do in the same hours, even if you don't have any problems, you're super happy you can do that. So kind of that was the approach. And when I started, so I think part of your question was, how did I do that, right? How did I get the 300, 400 calls? I started doing these back in days in Asana, talking to a lot of different peoples. I was already thinking about the next step, the next adventure on my side. So I loved speaking with new people from different backgrounds and just asking questions. That's what I like, really. Even today, that's what I like. So when I started a company, when I started Sonar, I just basically took a automation tool in order to send out LinkedIn invites automatically with sequences of message. And the sequence was really, really basic. The idea was just to ask for an interview. I have literally nothing to sell. Literally, I just want to expose all my research. Obviously, I've done my research before. I've been talking to potentially already 5, 10, 15 people in different countries. So the idea is, if you give me 30 minutes of your time, I'll ask you questions during 20 minutes, and the last 10 minutes, I will share the results of all my research with you. The problems I've seen in other company, potentially I'll introduce you to another CIO I've met, and that actually happened a lot when people were saying, "Oh, if you know someone that has the same problem, I'd love to talk to them." So that was like, let's just exchange. And the idea was not to build my pipeline and have leads and everything. First, I just want to take feedback. If then I build a perfect product that answer the challenges, yes, potentially I'd reach out again saying, "Hey, by the way, we have built it. If you don't have anything by now, let's take a look at it." But that's the idea. Just going out there without selling anything.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point to really dive in on, because I think there's the people that are fearful of going out there and actually maybe being proved wrong and saying, "Hey, no, there is no need for this, and they feel their dreams drain out from them because it's not right. But actually, it's a far better to be drained then and find out what, number one, what you have may be necessarily not what they want, but it also gives you the input and the information you need to go and build something that they do want. And it might be just a tweak or two that now makes it that 100%. Ideal product.
100%. Or potentially you're not even talking to the right persona, not the right person you thought. Maybe you think that's for the CIO. And when you do the interviews, you think, yeah, it's not a challenge for them. Maybe it's the challenge of the CISO, not the CIO. And that's very different. So it just helps you build your go-to-market after that. Build your product based on the feedback, obviously, but build your go-to-market as well.
So I think it's one thing that people can take from this, and certainly it becomes more and more clear the more I'm talking to you, Tanguy, is that although it seems laborious and time-consuming to the beginning, it actually brings your speed to market, your speed to value to your client a lot quicker, because you're not wasting time talking to the wrong people, offering your product or your service to the wrong person, the wrong department, and the wrong thing. You do the hard work at the very beginning. So I think the key message is here is that although it's in tech, it's not just your product or your service. It is, what does the market want first? Go out there, find out what the market wants, find out who it wants it, and then build your thing around that so that your speed to market, your speed to value to the customer, to the client is dramatically reduced. So 100%. I think that was a really good thing for people to learn from this particular one. But let's now move on to building a company, because obviously now you've got your product to marketplace, you know what people are actually wanting. We all know that entrepreneurship isn't easy. It's not always a straight line. Wherever we think we're aiming the arrow, somehow when we let go of the bow, it just flies everywhere apart from a straight line. What are the biggest challenges? What are the top 3 challenges that you've had to deal with that, as an entrepreneur, you thought that was a great learning lesson? Thank goodness I learned that.
Probably a lot of different things. That's why actually I'm telling me every day, like I'm learning so much, so fast. It's actually crazy. If I have to pick 3, probably one of the topic we're going to be talking about, credibility. I thought it'd be definitely easier to convince whatever I would have in front of me, especially I have a good background with Google and Asana. I mean, it's okay. My co-founder is the same with HubSpot, with Google as well. Our developers are just amazing, working for secret services and everything. We thought it'd be easier with kind of a good team background like that. And it's not. Like, your team background is definitely not the credibility you have. I mean, not only. So we had to kind of learn it, let's say, the hard way, because things are taking way more longer. Sales cycle are taking longer than what we thought. Then it's difficult to choose.
It is difficult. There are so many things.
Yeah, there's so many.
Why don't we stick on this one, because I think credibility and trust, one of the insights which I've definitely come across from the interviews from other tech leaders and from my own clients, is that it's getting harder and harder and harder to build trust within the marketplace. It doesn't matter like you said, it doesn't matter how great the team is. It doesn't matter about that experience, because at the end of the day, it's getting harder for them to just say, hey, Tanguy, yeah, I'm willing to talk to you, because they're just seeing everybody exactly the same. One product or one service looks like another product or another service. So it's almost like, how do we build trust? What is the best way to build trust and get through that door? Because it used to be, in the good old days, just find the need. All right, if you find the need, then you can actually go in and talk about that need. But now you can't even get to the need, because it's the trust factor. Why are you different to anybody else? There's this. It's almost like it's easier to do nothing than talk and expose myself to somebody I don't trust. Yep. Is that something that you are finding out there in the marketplace? Of harder to build trust and credibility?
Yes, 100%. And to be honest, it really depends on the country and the culture as well, which is funny, because obviously when I did the interviews, I didn't just do interviews on the French market. I did interviews globally, because I needed to understand if there's specificity in certain markets, potentially competitors in certain markets that I could inspire myself of. It's another learning, but it's really attached to this one. French market, it's really, really tough to actually get people to trust you. I don't know why. It's really difficult. You get people really angry when you call them, when you write them an email. They're like, not all of them, obviously, but really you get some answers that are really, really bad. In the UK, as another example, they're gentlemen. It's crazy. Really, like the answers, it was nice. And it's, even if they say no, it's okay. They just explain why, and that's it. And I understand they're busy and everything. But yeah, basically based on the culture, it's very different. So coming back to your point, getting people to trust you, first, it's part of the credibility again. So when I write them, I write them on LinkedIn just because I know they're going to be checking my background before taking a call with me. And if I'm someone just, I don't know, in middle of my masters or something, they could think, yeah, that's not someone that is like really focused on a project and something like that. My LinkedIn, they potentially think, okay, he has a background, maybe there's a potential. It's interesting to see a potential startup that will maybe work in the future, and talk to the future CIO of that startup. So I kind of play on that level a little bit. And then the more you talk to people, the more introduction you get. And coming back to your point of saying it takes a lot of time at the beginning, but it actually, yes, definitely, because out of the 400, obviously there are people that will become partners. Some will definitely become customers at one point. All the others will be happy to get news from you and potentially like something on LinkedIn, potentially share something on LinkedIn, potentially introduce you to someone. And that's kind of the first network you're doing. And especially for us, because software asset management is a very, very small niche. There's not a lot of people. Everyone knows everyone in that community. It's actually crazy. So I was doing calls and I was like, oh, you know Edward. Oh, okay, cool. I was with Edward yesterday. Yeah, we've worked together actually in there and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, wow, okay. And everyone knows everyone. So yes, basically building trust, that's I think the best way to do it is just having conversation, ask for referrals, because having a referral is definitely the best way to start a conversation, and build credibility. And to build credibility, that's one of the topics we're going to talk about, but it's really difficult at the beginning. Your background, obviously, getting certifications is another way. Winning, competitions, things like that for a startup could be a way. On our side, we're starting on the enterprise market, so it's really difficult. Big companies, they just don't trust startup in general. So what did we do that is working really well is working on the channel program we have, working with partners. That was part of my DNA in Google and Asana. And I've never seen a company starting on the sales model of having a channel program. So we thought, why not? And it's actually a very good learning. It's working really well. Yeah. And
I'm
gives
glad we
credibility.
moved on to that, because one of the building trust, as we say, is one of those things where, and I'm sure everybody listening and everybody watching at some point would have realized that actually how do I get past this point? How do I build the trust and things like that? So one of the ways which when we were talking before, Tanguy, was the way to use partnerships, the way to get other people to open doors for you, because it almost becomes a part of, you gain some kind of authority, you get some kind of credibility by actually being associated with somebody else. 100%. And it's for smaller companies, for startups, well, for any type of company really. It doesn't really matter how you are. We've just looked, IBM and UFC have just merged together to form a massive joint venture company from two different ends. So it goes to prove that partnerships, joint ventures, things like that are one of the best ways to build a company. So let's talk a little bit about that and how you've taken your approach to building channel partners, partnerships, mentorships as well in your business.
Okay. So back to the beginning, after the 400 interviews, basically there was kind of a click on my side saying, okay, we need partnerships. We need partnerships, 100%. That's what I've been doing all my days before, and I loved it. But during the interviews, like customers were like, yes, if you'd have the tool you're talking about, that would be amazing because I would have the best data in the world. So what? What do I do with the data? And I was like, okay, either I need to hire 50 customer success managers and train them to do software asset management, which they are not because they're customer success managers. Or I work with partners that are very specialized. So that was the first point. I was like, okay, I need external services, and partners are perfect for that. Second part, because we wanted to work on the SMB at first, and then we went a lot of tractions on the enterprise, so a lot up market. We thought the same, like if those guys are interested with our product, who those guys are working with. And we basically knew they are working with a lot of different partners, such as in France, one of the greatest one is Ele, but there's Software One, there's Crayon, Livingstones, Angerpoint, Deloitte, EY. There's a lot of different companies working on software asset management with their customers. So I thought, okay, I'll just reach out to them, understand, talk with them. And the good thing if you're working with a partner is you can show the value to just one company, one partner, and those ones will just spread the word. Instead of having to show the value to each and every customer, sometimes you'll have referrals between them, but not a lot. So that's really powerful when you think about it. It's really difficult to make them move then, especially the bigger they are, the bigger it's difficult to make them move. But that was my job, so I knew how to do that. But yes, it's really powerful to say, okay, it's kind of a multiplicator. You just prove your point to one, and they will tell all the others. Especially, they are seen as trusted advisor by their clients, right? So if you're a customer of, I don't know, Capgemini, you will potentially go to them straight away saying, hey, you know what? I'm spending 60 million in SaaS, and I'd love to drop it down to 50 million. How do I do that? And if I'm working on my side with Capgemini will tell me, hey, Tanguy, I think there's a lead for you because your tool can definitely decrease by 30% their cost of SaaS. So let's do that. And the match will be done.
Yeah, I think it's when you listen to it, and it does sound simple, and quite frankly, people get it wrong a lot. We work a lot with our clients on building not just the ICP, the ideal client profile, but also the ideal partnership profile. Because when you can identify the partners that you can work with, they're the ones that open the door. And as you quite rightly said, you only now have to demonstrate the value, the result, the outcome to that one partner who now opens potentially 1,000 doors. So you don't have to then go one by one, onesie twosies, trying to build a trusted advisor status with all the onesie twosies, because you've already built it by association with that partner.
Exactly.
And once you can start doing it, and I think it's this very much underutilized business growth strategy. Again, for many reasons, I think especially in tech, it's, how about if they steal my product, steal my service? What happens if they try and replicate it and kick me out? And there's a lot of distrust. And I think there lies an issue. When you are distrusting, and I don't mean not be careful, but I mean when you're distrusting, and you're not taking due diligence, then you're going to think the world as distrustful as well. So when you start opening up and say, okay, how can I give value to my partner? How can I make my partner look good? That's when you start benefiting from these strategic alliances.
But it's a mindset. It's really a mindset, as you say. It's actually crazy. Like all the other competitors we have globally, I know they have failed in building a channel program. And that's the feedback I've been having from their old employees, from partners, from a lot of different people. And the reason for that in general is because either it's because it's not part of the DNA in the company. So people are just like, yes, we'll take partners, we'll sign the contract. Now they will bring deals in. It's obviously not like that, right? When you build a relationship with someone, it's just like, yeah, we're friends now. Now give me things, or right? That's not the way it is. So that's the first thing. Or the second thing, there's a clash between your account executives and the partners. If your account executives are not aware of how to work with partners or how to collaborate with them. And I don't know if they're going to be commissioning, I don't know, they will take, 10, 20, 30% of your real ARR. It's how it is, but you need to be prepared for that as an account executive. If not, you're going to try to go on the side and the partner is not going to be liking it and the partnership is going to be gone. So there's kind of a few things that you need to prepare, and if it's not part of the DNA, it's not going to work. And I think that's why a lot of people are failing at building good partnership programs as well.
And this is, I think, is the real shame. And I'm glad you brought this up, Tanguy, because, as I said, it sounds simple, and it is really simple, yet it's people overcomplicate it. And I think they overcomplicate it. They don't make the path easy. Like you quite rightly said, at the very beginning, you think, oh, we're friends now, introduce me to all your friends.
Exactly.
And it doesn't work that way. You've got to build your friends once, and now you build the trust, you build the relationship, and as you build that credibility bank with the partner, then you get introduced to the other friends. That's when you start expanding your network. But when people expect it straight away and go, hey, we're now friends, where's your other friends, where's your other colleagues, that's when it fails. So it is a long-term thing, but quite frankly, if you're in business short-term, then really there's something wrong. Business is long-term, relationships are long-term. So when you start with that, and that's what I loved listening to you earlier on, where you said, hey, we had this right from the very beginning. Well, it was about building partnerships. It was about building those strategic, and that's what it is, strategic alliances. They are strategic, they are alliances, but you've got 100%. To build upon them, to absolutely make it work. So that being said, there are going to be people listening and say, well, okay, and you touched on it earlier, about revenue share. How do you approach that, in regards to, number one, mindset that you've got to give some of it away.
Yeah.
Right. But also the fact that, say, where do most partners want to draw that particular line?
So there's a lot of different type of partners. First, globally, you can say first there's the partners that are totally agnostic, so they don't want any margin out of the product because that's their business. If you give them margin, they're not agnostic anymore. They can lose customers based on that. So they want to be agnostic. They want a great partnership, but more in terms of collaboration, and they will sell services on top of your product. So I call those ones services partners, right? And there's no margin, no money involved. It's just, we're going to be working on this one. You're going to provide the services. I'm going to provide the product, and the customer is going to be happy. That's, for my particular product, it's working really well, and that's the kind of partners I'm looking for. Then there's the big resellers that are just reselling product, not really providing services on top. For those ones, in general, it's around 10% margin you're giving. Lifetime, 3 years, 1 year, there's a lot of different questions around that. I've seen lifetime a lot, but every time it looks like the partner gets fucked at one point, to be honest, because lifetime is not lifetime. You can change it anytime you want. So like HubSpot, right, there's a lot of examples like that. So I would be more confident as a partner having a 3-year contract, but making sure I make the money during those 3 years, right? So let's say it's during 3 years. Then there's the solution partners or value-added resellers. Those one are doing marketing, so they're looking for new customers for you. They're hunting for new customers. They're selling the product, and they're doing services on top. Those are the bests in general. That's the one you're looking for. And for those ones, you're giving between 20 and 30% in general, maybe a bit more depending if they're tier 2, etc. But let's say between 20 and 35% for either 3 years or lifetime, if you consider lifetime an option. So that's basically the type of margin you're giving. If you want to get more than 30%, I think there's two ways. Either there's the referral program. On the referral program, sometimes you can get 40 to 50% on the first year only, obviously on the first sale, because it's just a referral, by the way. Sometimes it's just 10%, it really depends on the company. And the other way to get that is if a company has what they call geo-fenced, meaning, let's say you're an American company, you want to launch a specific country in Europe, but you don't have any account executive. So all the leads that will come, you will work with a partner in there, and you will tell them, okay, now you have 50% margin on everything, but you deal with the discount, you deal with the customer, you do everything, and I just want my 50% basically of the list price. That's it. That's another way to see it. So yeah, I don't know if I answered the question. Very long.
No, you answered it perfectly, because as I said, people tend to get very either very blinkered into the only way that is to do a joint venture, the way to do it, as opposed to the various ways which you've outlined for us. And I think before I move on to the next thing, which is vitally important, really, is the fact that when you said right at the very beginning, hey, I have the product, you can provide the service, there it is. Because you said right at the very beginning, you know who you are. You don't like services. You don't like doing that.
100%.
Yeah, so when you can decide, actually, these are the parts of the business I don't like, I don't want to do. And those, then you can go out and seek partnerships that fulfill that. So actually the customer still gets the best of both worlds. They get your best product from you, but then they're getting services, because if you had to provide services, it won't be as good as you would want it to be, because you don't actually like doing it, right?
And even if I like to, I'm not an expert. I'm an expert in SaaS management. I'm not an expert in ITAM, in software asset management, in cybersecurity. I'm really an expert in my niche, not on everything. Yeah. And I think it's really important for the for the customer to have a trusted advisor that could go even further that particular topic, because SaaS management is part of something. And it works for my product, but it works for Asana. It's great if you're a perfect partner on Asana, but it's even better if you're a partner happy to help them on collaboration overall, on productivity overall, not only on the tool, right? On the whole topic, OKRs and those kind of things, right? Yeah, so it's way better, instead of having a customer success that will train you on the tool, to have a partner with big picture that will able to train you on the tool, but also to look at the full picture and help you on the workflows and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's one of those things which I just can't help thinking now we're on this particular topic, is that it's one of those things which I'm a great believer in. And I always believed in growing businesses via the right type of partnership. And as you quite rightly said there, you can grow your business by not wasting your time doing the stuff that you're not an expert on. If you can just farm those out to a partner who's actually going to help you grow, you can grow 2, 3, 4 times faster, because you're only focusing on what you do best and let them focus on what they do best. Yes, there may be a split in AR, but you're growing your main product. You're growing what you want to do.
Yes.
And letting something, as long as there's controls in place, and checks and balances, so that your product still stays pure, right? Because if their servicing is the wrong thing, it can make your product look bad rather than shine. But yes, as long as you've got those in place, what a great way to grow and scale your business from doing it, especially if you're product led, But it can work vice versa. If you're great service led, don't try and create a product. Go and find a product that's already out there.
100%. I don't think it works for all types of companies and all types of SaaS. Yes, you can have partners. You cannot drive the biggest growth of your company through partners for all type of business model. Thinking about it, if you're a PLG company, right? If you're a product-led company and your product is not really expensive, really, I don't know, $10 per month, the partner is not going to be interested in selling this, because on one side, even if he's agnostic, he's not going to be able to sell services on top, because the services is going to be 100 times the price that you're selling the product. Plus, if he's taking a margin, I don't know, 20% of $10 is not really interesting for their business model. So that's why it's really working in general when you're working a bit up market, when you're doing deals that are over 5, 10K, either MR, AR, really depends on the type of partners again. But basically, unfortunately, can't work for everyone. If it doesn't work on your side, find another way. Partners could be freelancers. It could be a community. It could be different. There's different ways. You'll always find kind of an alliances or partners. Maybe they're not going to be your best advocate, but they're still going to be able to refer leads and everything. So there's always a way, even though it's not perfect for all businesses.
No, you're absolutely right there, and it will depend on. And again, we get so used to dealing in high ticket, high value, that we tend to forget there are still products out there who are much less ticket value, dollar value. But as you quite rightly said, there's other ways of promoting that you don't have to do it yourself. And quite frankly, if anyone is actually listening here regarding that, I would strongly recommend you find a way to increase the dollar value of your product or your service. When you increase that dollar value, the scope for you to grow becomes so much bigger, not just in the size of revenue, but your access to market gets so much bigger if you have much higher ticket value to your product or to your service. Yeah. So, Tanguy, we've talked so much, and it just sounds like we could continue talking for hours on this. But obviously, time is precious for that, and I really appreciate the time you spent so far. So, why don't we just let me ask you this loaded question as a wrap up? Because you've given us so much already. That on business growth, on apprenticeship, on growing your career, moving into entrepreneurship, stepping stones, loads. It continues and continues. There's going to be great show notes at the end of this, for the people here. So I've got a loaded question, and it's something I like to ask generally to all of my guests. If you could give yourself one piece of advice, your younger self, one piece of advice from everything you know, what would that piece of advice be?
I know already.
Oh, you do?
Because, I've been thinking a lot about, not exactly the same, but do I have a regret in my life, right? And so it's kind of the same. The only regret I have, so the advice I would give myself, the younger one, is create your first company while you're still a student, because you have nothing to lose. I have already a kid today, and there's a lot of like you're buying a house and there's a lot of things everywhere. When you're a student, you just have to think about this, and it's super easy, and you don't care about money because you can live with nothing, and you have friends around that can help. So the only regret I have is to not have launched my first company when I was a student. So the younger self would be like, whenever you can, just create a side project, a side hustle, whatever you want, but just go out there and try things.
Yeah, that is a fantastic piece of advice. As I said, you got nothing to lose when you're in college, when you're younger. Just go for it and see what happens. And and it might be the next best thing. It might be something that you have to fail fast and get back 100%. Up and do it again. But the quicker you can actually do it, the quicker you get into that. What a great piece of advice.
And, another one, because this one is really important as well. I was until really, really late, I was really afraid of taking a phone call myself, and it was really difficult, to be honest, especially in another language. So the younger self, I would just say challenge yourself of go and talk to strangers on the phone, in the street or whatever. I think it's an amazing thing for the future then.
Yeah, that just reminded me of something we talked about off camera, wasn't it? When I was a child, having to go to France with my little recorder, my little microphone and actually talk to strangers in French, and it just builds your confidence up, talking 100%. To complete strangers.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Well, listen, Tanguy, it's been an absolute pleasure having you. Thank you very much for sharing everything, your insights today. It's been a true honor to have you here today.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for inviting me. It was a real pleasure. As you said, I think we can talk for a lot of hours again, but hopefully we have been having value for the listeners. So
definitely. So if people want to get hold of you, or they want to potentially work with you, or help them with their business, or yourself, want to know more about what your product does, perhaps you help with their companies, what's the best way of getting hold of you?
Just reach out to me either on LinkedIn or by email, Tanguy, so TANGUY at sonarclarity.ai. And if you need help because you have a SaaS, you want to launch your partnership program, just ask me a question. I love to help. I've been doing a lot of consulting around that already. And if you're interested into Sonar, either as a partner or as a customer, please reach out. We're actually looking for partners in the US right now. So please reach out.
Well, I'll make sure, Tanguy, that I've got your details in the show notes, so people can just do a one-click straight through to you to make thought. So again, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us for this episode. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here. Now, again, I'm sure you must have taken loads of notes down, and if there's things that you have taken from Tanguy today that's really resonated with you, make sure you put them in the comments. Make sure you like and you subscribe, but more importantly, please make sure you share this amongst your peers and amongst your friends, so that the insights that Tanguy has shared with us can actually help them as well grow in their businesses and grow in their careers. So until next time, thank you very much for joining us, and we shall see you on the next episode. Until then, goodbye. Thank you, Tanguy. See you soon.